So, if you're watching this, then congratulations, you made it through possibly one of the worst years in history. It's no secret that 2020 was a soul-crushing year. I mean, I don't think there's been a year this, well, interesting since probably World War II, Vietnam maybe? Not sure. But it's probably the most hectic time in quite a while, and I'm assuming that most of the people watching these videos are like, well, not that old. Like, I mean, I can't imagine anybody over like 30 is like really watching these. So I'm gonna assume that none of you were alive at like Vietnam or World War II. So this is probably the most hectic time of your life right now. But you all know why 2020 is so insane. But let's not focus on that. Let's really not focus on everything that makes this year so fucking insane. Let's instead focus on something that literally doesn't matter at all: popular music. Happy holidays, everyone. 2020 was a terrible year. I don't think anyone's going to debate that. It was a pretty horrible time for everyone. However, if there was anything good that 2020 had, it was popular music, because, surprisingly, 2020 was actually a pretty damn good year for the Hot 100. Especially compared to previous years, 2020 had a pretty significant number of really good and memorable hits. Maybe it's because we're all in quarantine and the Hot 100 was basically completely dominated by streaming this year, but still, there hasn't been a year this good for the Hot 100 since 2015. In a year as bad as this one, I'll take anything good we can get, even if it's something as minuscule and unimportant as popular music. So this is the first time I've done a list like this, especially when it's relevant, so I'm gonna keep things simple. Unfortunately, I'll only be looking at songs that debuted on the 2020 year end. I'm going to exclude all the songs that were also on the 2019 year end, but yeah, I understand that for newer years, it's kind of a cop-out to do that, because using the year end for worst lists only makes sense for like retro years, but I mean, it's the first time I'm making a list like this when it's relevant, so I mean, I might as well keep it simple. Anyway, let's get on to it. Before we begin, we have a few dishonorable mentions to talk about. Now, these won't be all of the dishonorable mentions, only some of them, as I will talk about more of them later on in this video. Anyway, here we go.
Working on a weekend like usual. Way off in the deep end like usual.
The more I think about this song, the worse it gets. This is literally just a Drake song and a Future song stitched together. They try to play it off as some sort of beat switch, but no, it's literally just two different unrelated trap songs stitched together into one. And neither of the individual songs are memorable or even good in the first place, so what you have here is two mediocre songs for the price of one. So yeah, the song is bad. However, I will also concede that part of the reason why this is even on here is because of unfortunate timing. Life is certainly not good at the moment.
Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your...
Holy fucking shit, will Maroon 5 ever fuck off? This song is incredibly frustrating. First of all, it doesn't even sound good. It's literally just the melody of Pachelbel's Canon, alongside Adam Levine's horrible dog whistle of a voice. The lyrics are even more frustrating. We're supposed to remember all the good times we've had with Maroon 5, a band that hasn't had a good album in over a decade and should be long irrelevant at this point. Even the video is lazy, it's just Adam Levine's face in front of a black background. Look, I wouldn't say this is the worst Maroon 5 song. I think Maps, Don't Wanna Know, What Lovers Do in Feelings have that one covered pretty well. but it is probably one of the most frustrating ones. Especially after an entire decade of mediocre song after garbage song after mediocre song after garbage song, I'm just at my limit when it comes to Maroon 5. And I'm really not looking forward to what they have to make in the future.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter.
2020 was not a good year for Justin Bieber. Well, I mean, it wasn't really a good year for anybody, but what I mean is that he was really off his game this year. Intentions is a song where Justin Bieber just gives up. The lyrics are horrible. I guess this is supposed to be a love song, but when he compares the woman to an asset that he can buy, it's pretty embarrassing. And it's not like the beat is any better. What we have here is a ridiculously lame, shitty, royalty-free sounding beat. Add to that a terrible vocal performance from Justin Bieber and a pointless Quavo verse, and you got a perfect recipe for a shitstorm. Out of all the hit songs in 2020, this is one of the ones that I least want to listen to again, and for that it definitely deserves a spot on here.
Roxanne, Roxanne, all she wanna do is party all night.
If I'm gonna be honest, I don't really have a reason for this one. I just think it sounds like shit. Sorry.
So, before you go.
To give it some credit, it's better than Someone You Loved. Then again, that's an incredibly low bar to get over. I feel kind of bad for putting this on here because the lyrics are actually pretty good. They tell a pretty deep story about a family member who killed themselves and wondering what you could have done to prevent it, and it's handled pretty well. Unfortunately, no amount of good writing can surpass this song's fatal flaw, Lewis Capaldi.
So, before you go.
My fucking god. It is awe-inspiring how bad this guy is at singing. This song would be fine, maybe even good, if literally anyone besides Lewis Capaldi sang it. He is terrible. In the end, I guess I can say this was a good effort, but still, Lewis Capaldi, get singing lessons. And that's all the dishonorable mentions for now. As stated before, there will be more later on in this video, but until then, let's get started with the top 10 worst hit songs of 2020. So, how about we start this list by breaking the one rule I had?
Yeah, you know it. This the remix. Doja.
I'm gonna have a hard time justifying this.
Every time I take a break, the game be so boring. Pretty like Naomi, Cassie plus Lorman.
I'm sure some of you will raise an eyebrow at this pick, considering that I just said that a song had to make the 2020 year end to make this list, and the version of Say So that's credited in the year end is the original, not the remix. However, I'd argue that the remix still had a very prominent presence on the Hot 100, as it was the version credited in many of the weekly charts. And it was also this version of the song that hit number 1. And all the other songs that had remixes have their remixes credited in the year end. However, it'd be stupid to argue that their original versions didn't have a presence. With all that said and done, I think I made my case for why I want to include this version of the song as my number 10 on this list. But before we get into that, I want to give some background on Say So. A trend in the Hot 100 during the late 2010s and especially in 2020 that I've really been liking is the increase in mainstream female rappers. I mean, after all, Nicki Minaj can't be the only mainstream female rappers. There's gotta be others. And Doja Cat, while I may not be the biggest fan of her, certainly filled that void. Say So was a really good disco throwback hit. It was so nice and comforting, like if The Color Pink was a song. Unfortunately, all of that changed when the remix happened.
Every time I take a break, the game be so boring. Pretty like Naomi, Cassie plus Lorman.
This is probably the most shoehorned in Nicki Minaj verse I've ever heard. Not only does this completely break the flow of the song, but it also breaks the atmosphere. The point of Say So is that it's supposed to be nice and comforting. This is way too aggressive. But it isn't just the song itself that makes it so terrible, it's also literally everything that surrounds it. The original Say So was already in some pretty hot waters for being produced by Dr. Luke, who is, well, a known rapist. But with this remix hitting number 1, that man was able to get a number 1 hit, which is just the worst thing ever. But it wasn't even just that. For this song to hit number 1, what happened is that a bunch of stans harassed people off Twitter, the chart data guy on Twitter got doxxed, and all of this just so people could see Doja Cat's breasts, because she'd promised to show them if the song hit number 1, and she didn't even do that. So, nothing good came out of this. This song is only at number 10 because first off, it didn't even technically make the year end, so I think it'd be cheating even further to put it higher on the list, and also because the original song is still pretty good. And most of this is the original song, but holy shit, if this isn't one of the worst remixes of the entire year. I do hope Nicki Minaj gets her shit together soon, but considering that she's working with the Skittle Man, yeah, probably not happening. Huh, guess he really did have murder on his mind. Regardless of how the court case actually turns out, which, well, still hasn't happened yet, I want to mention that I do think that Murder on My Mind is a bad song. The concept of having someone tell their fantasies of committing brutal murders is definitely intriguing, but the overall sound of the song is not something I'm a fan of. The vocals are grainy and overly auto-tuned. The whole song is just some kind of low garble. It's a very ugly sounding song, and not in a good way. I guess the atmosphere fits, but still, it'd be nice if the song wasn't just so grainy and cheap sounding. It's not god-awful or anything. I wouldn't say it's one of the worst songs of 2019, especially not among stuff like Hey Look Ma, I Made It or Only Human, but I still think it's bad. However, despite all of that, I will say that this song is better than his big hit this year, which is even uglier and doesn't even have the benefit of having a good concept.
Your love is suicidal. For me, your love is suicidal.
Fun fact, this remix was teased the same day that Juice WRLD died, which, well, take that whichever way you want. Speaking of Juice WRLD, after his very unfortunate death, I actually came to reevaluate him as an artist. I had only listened to 3 of his songs before that, so I looked into more of his work, and I gotta say, I actually respect him a lot more than I used to. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a fan of his, but I still think that he is an important and influential artist that deserves to be remembered fondly. In this remix, he is given nearly nothing to work with. Despite his efforts to sound lively, the beat is so dull that his attempts just come off as horrible.
I'ma blow, hit him with the Ruger and it's too solid, make it go.
However, his verse is still better than YNW Melly, who is about as lifeless, dull, and low energy as the beat.
I thought that we were meant to be. You took my heart and made it bleed.
And that's really the main problem with this song. It's so dull, lifeless, filled with auto-tune, grainy, and just horrible and ugly sounding that there's no enjoyment that can be gotten from it. Even Murder on My Mind had a catchy melody in the chorus and had an interesting concept. This isn't catchy at all, and the concept? Well, it's just another droning trap song about a breakup, which we've seen so many times before. A trap song about a man telling his sick, twisted fantasies about committing murder is definitely something a lot more unique than usual, and it's not really something we see very often. A trap song about a breakup? Yeah, it's been done before. So this is just another one that gets thrown in the pile. If I sounded too dismissive of this song and just started hating it firsthand just because of what it was, then I'm sorry. But it's just that I've seen this kind of song done so many times before, and this does nothing to stand apart from the crowd. Aside from his big hits, I haven't really looked into YNW Melly's work. But if most of what he makes is like this, then I'm not exactly thrilled to do so. One genre I can't say I'm a fan of is sad white boy music.
My last made me feel like I would never try again.
And here we have the saddest of sad white boy songs, Falling by Trevor Daniel. Except it's not actually a sad white boy song at all, it's a love song. This song, about being in love, sounds like this. Suffice to say, the music and the lyrics are at a pretty extreme disconnect here. Falling is about as much of a love song as With Arms Wide Open is a song about becoming a father. Of course, there are other problems here too, like just how awkward the melody is. It comes off like he's just making this shit up as he goes along, jumping awkwardly from note to note with no cohesion or progression. It's not even really that catchy. I mean, it kind of is, but at the same time, pretty much every pop song is at least kind of catchy, so that's not really that much of a positive, it's more of just a given. And Trevor Daniel doesn't have much of a presence or an identity. He's just another droning trap artist, making miserable trap songs filled with way too much autotune, turning everything into a low garble. There's nothing that separates this from the 15,000 other songs out there that sound exactly like this. There isn't really anything else I can say about this. It's just another miserable, ugly, droning trap song. The only thing that sets it apart from the rest is that it's a love song that sounds like a miserable, ugly, droning, depressing trap song. So, congratulations, Trevor Daniel. You did one thing unique. Now fuck off.
So don't worry, be happy.
I really hate songs that enforce a kind of toxic positivity that's basically like, don't worry about all the shit things that are happening right now, just be happy and forget about all of that. It's not a very healthy mindset, nor a helpful one. This exact sentiment is why Don't Worry, Be Happy is considered to be one of the worst songs of all time. And wouldn't you know it, 2020 has its own version of Don't Worry, Be Happy, and it sucks too.
Feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk around the neighborhood.
Well, technically this song was released in 2019, but you know what I mean. This song expresses that same kind of toxic positivity that just puts me in a worse mood. Are things horrible and miserable right now? Well, just forget about all that and don't worry. Be happy. That's all you need to do. Especially in 2020, this mindset is extremely frustrating to hear because you can't exactly forget all the horrible shit that happened this year.
Every day can be a better day despite the challenge. All you gotta do is leave it better than you found it.
Yeah, that's helpful. Forget what shit happened to you earlier, just feel better about it.
Everyone falls down sometime, but you just gotta know it'll all be fine.
I really fucking hate this sentiment. Sometimes it's not going to be fine in the future. And even if it is, I don't have to pretend to be happy or not be upset anymore about what happened.
And just say whatever, cause there is no way you're around it.
Well, that's helpful. Way to admit that your own advice is useless, asshole. If it sounds like I'm nitpicking, I probably am, but the main point is that this toxic positivity mindset is just horrible and I hate it. It's especially bad when it's being expressed by a second-rate Logan and Jake Paul. Oh, and also, the song just sounds terrible.
Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
Music sounds like shit, and the vocals are just so smug, irritating, and fucking horrible. It's a mess all around. I was probably way too harsh on these two, and I'm sorry for that. I doubt they intended for this song to be as insulting and frustrating as it is, and it was unfortunately popular during the COVID-19 pandemic. If there's any moral to get from this, it's that if you want to be happy, you can't just forget or ignore all the problems you have or all the miserable things that happened. And you don't have to be happy if things are miserable. Just be happy when you can, and if you can't, that's completely okay. The COVID-19 pandemic was absolutely terrible to pretty much everyone in the world. However, there is one thing that did actually benefit from it, and it's this song.
If the world was ending, you'd come over, right? The sky'd be falling and I'd hold you tight.
This is JP Sachs. I have never heard of him before. None of his other songs have become hits. This is the only one, and it was out of sheer luck. This song was released in October 2019, at just the right time, because very soon afterward, COVID hit the entire world, and it really did seem like the entire world was ending. Thus, his shitty little ballad about wanting to reconcile with his ex while the world was ending was able to become a hit. But it isn't just a ballad, it's a duet.
I tried to imagine your reaction. It didn't scare me when the earthquake happened.
And who better to collab with than Julia Michaels, the same one who sang Issues. And it doesn't look like she's gotten any better since then. The main problem with this song is just the sheer lack of passion. For a song about the world ending, it's really boring. This song consists of like one very basic piano loop, and that's it. Now with a song this minimalistic, most of the focus would be put on the lyrics. Too bad the lyrics are, well, not very good. I think that a song about wanting to reconcile with your ex while the world is literally ending is kind of dumb already, but I mean, if it's done well, then I'm completely for it. It's not done well. JP Saxe and Julia Michaels do not have any passion in their vocal performance. They sound completely uninterested. They sing like they had a bad day at work, not like the world is literally ending. How am I supposed to be emotionally involved in any of this if this is what they sing like?
If the world was ending, you come over right. Sky be falling while I hold you tight.
They have no chemistry. And if these two don't care about what's going on, then why should I? And as stated before, the lyrics are just bad. Instead of telling us how much these two mean to each other and why they want to be together and reconcile so badly while the world is ending, they just wonder what the other person is doing at the moment. As an emotional ballad, this is a complete failure, and the only reason why it got popular is because in 2020, it really did feel like the world was ending, so of course a song called If the World Was Ending got popular. Maybe in like 70 years when climate change has taken over the planet and the world actually starts ending, I'll be thinking of this song. But I'll probably have a gun in my mouth. So, we're halfway through the list. Let's take a little intermission and look at some more dishonorable mentions. I want to emphasize that this is not here because of Gabby Barrett's political views. I think being a Trump supporter kind of makes you a shit person, but this is about the music. I understand these lyrics. This guy broke her heart and she wants the same thing to happen to him. It might not sound nice, but it's justified. Too bad, the music sucks. The vocals on the chorus are so compressed that they don't even register as human. In fact, the chorus itself sounds so bad I'm surprised they didn't catch it when making this. Even Before He Cheats, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but I actually like that song, didn't sound like absolute ass. This song, which feels like it's very much inspired by Before He Cheats, just completely misses the mark and sounds like dog shit. I also just kind of think it's funny that I always hated this song and a lot of people seem to be fine with it or even like it at first, and now all those people seem to hate this song more than I do, so I guess it's just the way things work. Oh, by the way, there's a Charlie Puth remix. I have no idea why this was made. Charlie Puth adds nothing except making the song slightly worse. At least this remix was credited in the year end, so I don't have to feel guilty over including it in this video, unlike with Say So. But yeah, you can consider this Dishonorable Mention spot to go to both the original and the Charlie Puth remix. They both suck. That was way too long for a Dishonorable Mention, I am so sorry. This takes Havana, Camila Cabello's only good song, and makes it shit. Havana was smooth and had a great atmosphere. This is annoying and sounds like shit. I don't like Lil Baby. I don't really hate him as much as I used to, but still, not a fan at all.
Yeah, we pay. Yeah, we pay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I just really don't like Lil Baby. There's like 2 songs of his I like and a few more I tolerate, but most of his stuff is just garbage. The Black Eyed Peas finally have another hit. It's been like, what, 7 years? A long time. Unfortunately, with how bad this song is, I can't really say I miss them. They collaborated with J Balvin to make an extremely lazy club song. It was popular in a time where most people can't even go clubbing, so it doesn't even have that going for it. It relies way too heavily on its sample from Rhythm of the Night by Corona, which, I mean, you could probably tell why this song was a hit now. It also samples the You Know You Like It remix by DJ Snake and Alana George. Suffice to say, the drop sounds extraordinarily weaker here. Listen, you want my advice? Go listen to Rhythm of the Night or You Know You Like It. Those songs are way better than this. Or you could actually watch Bad Boys for Life, as this song is on that movie's soundtrack. I didn't watch it, but I heard it's alright. Maybe give it a shot. We still have 5 more dishonorable mentions to talk about later on in this list, but for now, let's focus on the 5 songs we still have in the actual list. Let's begin this next spot with talking about a man that we haven't seen in a few years. So, how is it going, the official Chris Brown wannabe Jason Derulo? It's no secret that this song has kind of an interesting history, but before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the JD man himself. As of now, Jason Derulo is pretty popular on TikTok, so I guess it makes sense that he would make a song appealing to that kind of demographic, but I'll get more into that in the next number. He also starred in Cats last year, which is one of the worst movies ever made, and I can say that without watching it because, well, look at this shit. And yeah, he guest starred in the channel that must not be named. The basic point of all this is that I don't think we really need Jason Derulo making hits anymore. Like, he can be left in the 2010s. We don't need to bring him into this new decade, but, of course, we can't have nice things. As mentioned before, this song has a bit of an interesting story that honestly just makes it worse. What would be a rather shitty unwelcome return from Jason Derulo is made into an even shittier unwelcome return from Jason Derulo. Some 18-year-old from New Zealand called Josh685 released something called Lax Siren Beat in 2019, and then in 2020, Jason Derulo teased Savage Love, which had a sample from Laxed Siren Beat, and he didn't even credit Josh685 for it. He did later, and they did work out their differences, but that's pretty shitty. And for this? No offense, but this song sounds cheap as hell. It's probably the cheapest sounding song this year. A shitty instrumental with Jason Derulo's voice plastered all over it. If this is the kind of shit that Jason Derulo is going to do from here on out, then I want him to make hits even less than I did before. Stealing a beat for a fucking TikTok song is pretty low, but I guess it's what makes the money these days. Oh, and speaking of TikTok...
Bitch, I'm a ghost. I could go on for days and days, yeah, I do the most.
To some degree, I do think it's a little lazy to just call a song a TikTok song, even if I understand where the thought process comes from. I will concede that there have been a lot of trends like this in the past where it seems like a lot of songs get popular because of one viral thing at the moment. In the mid-2010s, there were a lot of songs that did feel like they only got popular because of Vine. And even earlier in the late 2000s, it felt like a lot of songs only got popular because of ringtones. And there's no real specific classification for these kinds of songs, but it's just a feeling you get. Usually they're rap songs that are very simplistic and also terrible, that usually have moments in there that you know are intended for like ringtone or Vine or TikTok or whatever, or that can easily be used for that. Again, I think it's a pretty lazy classification to just slap on a song, even if I understand where it comes from. However, there are some instances where it's just completely undeniable what it is. And in this case, it is completely undeniable that this song was made 100% for TikTok and no other purpose.
It go right foot up, left foot slide, left foot up, right foot slide.
And that's the best dance he could come up with for a TikTok song. As you can see, very little effort was put into this. Apparently Drake was thinking of the moonwalk when making this, and yeah Drake, this lazy ass shit isn't anywhere close to MJ. Hell, the In My Feelings challenge felt more like a byproduct of the song, and even that required you to actually move and do something other than, well, pretty much nothing. Drake has made some lazy songs before, but this one takes the cake. I wouldn't exactly say it's the worst song of his, but it is the laziest. The beat's non-existent ambient drones, and the lyrics, well, I don't know what they are, and really I don't care either. I mean, how could you make any of them out over Drake's passionless droning? Taking a look back at the Wikipedia article, there are apparently a lot of references to Michael Jackson in this song, but, I mean, no one's gonna notice. They're just gonna do the TikTok dance. And everyone else is just gonna listen to something else or only get like halfway through this. This whole thing is 4 minutes long, which, for a song this bare bones, feels like an eternity. It's an empty void of a song, only existing to cash in on the TikTok trend. And at this point, that's something that we should expect Drake to be perfectly willing to do. Drake has had a hit on every year-end list since 2009, and it doesn't look like that streak will be ending anytime soon. My only request is that he never stoops this low for a cheap cash-in ever again. But he probably will. Drake hasn't been a good artist since like 2012, and his overexposure is just not even tiring at this point. It's like air. It's just something I always know will be there. It's essentially just another fact of life, that Drake will always have hits on the Hot 100, even when I'm dead. But we still got another 3 songs that are even worse than this, so let's get on to that.
That's been 10,000 hours and 10,000 more.
The new trend that's dominating the country charts at the moment is what a lot of people like to call boyfriend country, and most of these songs are mediocre. But I'd still take boyfriend country over bro country any day, and thankfully bro country is kind of a dying trend at the moment. However, that doesn't mean it still doesn't rear its ugly head every once in a while. Case in point,
You've got a cold heart and cold hard truth.
and would you look at that, it's fucking Sam Hunt again. Sam Hunt has quickly become one of my least favorite country artists at the moment. You might remember back in 2017 when he made Body Like a Back Road, one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever had the displeasure of hearing. And I can't really tell which one of these 2 songs is worse, but the main point is that they both still suck.
Are you breaking my heart, baby? You're playing hard to forget.
Hard to forget. I wish this song wasn't hard to forget. This song is another one of those god-awful country trap mashup hits. And after Old Town Road, I was willing to give more of those a chance, but as it turns out, no one else can pull this off. It starts off with a sample of There Stands the Glass before hitting you with a mess of hi-hats, banjos, and a bunch of other country and trap elements mashed together. It actually makes me appreciate Old Town Road a lot more, because it made sure to still be a coherent song at the end of the day, while this is just a mess of them throwing every country element and trap element at the wall, seeing if it sticks, and if it doesn't stick, who gives a shit? Nashville will still eat it up. The lyrics aren't anything special. It's another song about a guy who just can't stop thinking about his past relationship, as everything makes him think of her. Despite this, Sam Hunt still manages to make his performance smug and irritating. So basically just like every other Sam Hunt song, but a little worse here. There isn't any redeeming quality I can find about this song. The music sounds like the worst elements of country and the worst elements of trap put in a blender and mixed into a horrible, incoherent mess. The lyrics aren't anything special, and Sam Hunt's vocal performance is smug and annoying. I really hope we don't have to deal with this guy again, but only time will tell.
So much for so
God damn, why did we give this guy another album? When I saw that this guy was back with another hit, it was a very unpleasant surprise.
Fuck you and you and you. I hate your friends and they hate me too.
I fucking hate Black Bear.
This that hot girl bummer anthem, turn it up and throw a tantrum. This that hot girl bummer anthem, turn it up and throw a tantrum.
Black Bear is one of the most worthless artists out there right now. I first caught wind of this guy in 2017 with his hit Do Re Mi, which was fucking terrible. And I thought I'd never hear from this guy again, but here we are. With the title ripped straight from Hot Girl Summer, which is a way better song. And it even managed to be a bigger hit than Hot Girl Summer, which is kind of frustrating, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, yeah, Hot Girl Bummer is just fucking horrible. Supposedly, this song is about Black Bear's longing and need to be a cool person at a party, but I don't get that at all. He's just saying a bunch of random shit in the lyrics, and he sounds like a complete asshole. And to some extent, I can understand that this isn't really supposed to be a pleasant sounding song, but it'd be really nice if it didn't sound like shit.
Fuck you and you and you. I hate your friends and they hate me too.
The constant droning noise in the background is irritating and headache-inducing. And all those other effects on the music make this sound like the worst acid trip imaginable. It's a very ugly song. And worst of all, Black Bear can't sing. He raps too, and he can't do that either. This song fails on every level. It's such a miserable and droning and horrible, ugly sounding song that it puts me in a bad mood every time I hear it. But you know what? I'll give this song this. There aren't many pop songs out there that make it a point to sound as miserable, ugly, and nauseating as possible. And for that, this song is certainly unique. One of a kind, even. Someone could even love this if they crave that droning, dreary sound that most other pop songs don't offer. But even still, I'm not going to pretend that this song is high experimental art or anything. It's a really shitty pop song, made by someone who I'm sure is a fine person in real life, but comes off as a prick here. I'm not excusing any of that. Will Black Bear have more hits in the future? Personally, I hope not. But we can only see. Fingers crossed, though. Well, we're almost at the end here, but before we get to number 1, we still have 5 more dishonorable mentions to talk about, so let's get to them. I've already talked about Doja Cat in this video, so I'm not going to go too far into this one, but I will say that this song is still terrible. Awkward as hell beat, horrible Tyga guest verse, has a lot of obvious flaws. I also really hate songs that compare sex or sex organs to food, and while this song doesn't really do that, I still get the feeling, and, well, the video doesn't help either. You know, we don't need Chris Brown to be around anymore. He can just go away. We can just stop giving him hits. Chris Brown is a fucking terrible human being, but you all know that already. As for this song itself, it's basically just No Guidance 2.0, just slightly better.
When I got what I got, I don't miss what I had.
I can't say I'm really much of a fan of these slow, tedious country songs that Jason Aldean has made way too many of. This one in particular sounds like a mashup of Burnin' It Down and You Make It Easy. Not really a good combination.
It goes like 1 margarita, 2 margarita, 3 margarita shot.
Well, it's nice to see that Luke Bryan still sucks ass. I'm really glad this one didn't make the actual list. I didn't intentionally leave it off the list for that reason, but still, I'd be regurgitating the same old points about bro country I've said a million times before. The Sam Hunt song gave me a lot more to work with.
Bitches calling my phone like I'm locked up non-stop. From the plane to the fucking helicopter, yeah.
The only memorable thing about this song is that in the video they have Justin Bieber lip sync to Drake. The only memorable thing about this song isn't actually in the song itself. Other than that, this is just such a worthless piece of trash. Garbage beat, garbage lyrics, and probably one of the laziest songs of the year. I know DJ Khaled basically doesn't do anything, but still. DJ Khaled, do better. Well, that's all the dishonorable mentions. There's nothing else to do except finally get to our number one. So, without further ado, here it is. Before I started making this video, I kind of already knew what my number one was probably going to be. And then when I went through all my choices and analyzed them all, and really chose which one I thought was the worst, I was kind of disappointed because it was exactly the song that I expected it to be. And it really wasn't that grand cinematic number one that I was hoping for. In fact, it kind of seemed like a predictable shoo-in choice. And that kind of sucks. Like, I want these lists to be at least a bit unpredictable. And I don't want them to just be like random, like basic top 10 worst hit songs of X year. I want them to like kind of surprise you at points, but at the same time, I never want to be dishonest, so I went with it. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Out of all the songs I could have chosen for number one, there isn't any that are as pathetic, as horrible, and as embarrassing as this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Justin Bieber.
Yeah, you got that yummy, yum, that yummy, yum, that yummy, yummy.
I think it's safe to say that Yummy is one of the most embarrassing things that Justin Bieber has ever done. And not just because of the song itself, but because of the situations surrounding it. He tried to game the system with this one. He told all his fans to stream this song all the time in hopes that it would debut at number one. And lo and behold, it did not. It was beat out by The Box and only debuted at number 2, and then only stayed in the top 10 for 2 weeks. Now, there have been plenty of songs this year that debuted in the top 10, fell off immediately, and did not come close to making the year end. But of course, Yummy is not one of them. It racked up enough points to actually make it. Bieber has done some truly terrible songs in the past, but even then I could still say that they were complete products meant to be listened to. I can't say the same about this. This is not a song. It's a shitty demo that Justin Bieber made just so he could debut at number one. And he didn't even do that. So what was even the point of all this? I know I say a lot that a song isn't really a song or doesn't feel or sound like an actual song, and for the most part I'm exaggerating, but this is one of the few times where I'm not. This does not feel or sound like an actual complete song. Bieber's vocal performance is terrible in probably one of the worst ways possible. It's so flat and lifeless that it has no emotion whatsoever. And the beat might as well not even exist. As for the lyrics, well, this is one of the worst sex songs I've ever heard. You Got That Yummy is probably one of the worst lyrics ever, actually. I can't imagine anybody would have sex to that. I also can't believe that anyone looked at that lyric and said this is okay. This song can't even be enjoyed ironically. It's too flat and dull, and every part of this song sounds the same. So in the end, we have a song that doesn't appeal to anyone. I don't even think Bieber's biggest fans like this. I can't say that I've seen many songs that are this blatantly and obviously terrible, and for that it absolutely deserves to be called the worst hit song of 2020. Justin Bieber's probably going to be around for a while, and he's probably going to continue having hits, but at the least, I really hope he doesn't make anything this embarrassing or bad ever again. And let's hope that he doesn't. Justin Bieber, this is just terrible. There's no excusing it. Well, at least it isn't the country remix with Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah, you got that yummy, yum, that yummy, yum, that yummy, yum. Yeah, you keep flexing on me.
Yeah, glad that one didn't chart, huh? And that's my video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I don't really know what else to say. I'm not entirely sure what my next few videos are going to be. I might make a best list. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'm glad I got this video out when I did. These lists, especially when they're relevant, do seem to rack in more views, and I'm glad that I got it out when I did so I can kind of, cash in on some of that. And maybe I'll get a few more subscribers from this video. I do hope to get 1,000 one day, and hopefully I can get a few more from this video. So yeah, like this video if you liked it, leave a comment, and subscribe. That's about all I have, really. So yeah, have a fantastic Christmas and a wonderful New Year.